Tick-tock, the clock is ticking. Qualifying offers have been released to 7 free agents going around the league. And so welcome to PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli, Jamie Lynch, Renee Washington, as we're talking about free agency. We addressed the opening of free agency in our Monday episode here on the show. And now, after the important deadline of November 6th, it is now in the calendar time for the qualifying offers. And yes, there have been 7 qualifying offers that were released. It's a 1-year contract set to the average of the top 125 salaries in baseball. So for this year, it's that $20.325 million. Guys, that sounds nice. Give me one. I'll take $1 million. And so free agents have the opportunity to accept the qualifying offer, return to their team for that 1-year deal. Or if they decide they don't want to return back, they don't want to take the deal, they have until November 14th to do that. It's 7 different guys, and Shohei Ohtani, Cody Bellinger, Josh Hader, Blake Snell, Aaron Nola, Sonny Gray. I think I got everybody there. Aaron Nola, who we know we're not surprised by that, but no qualifying offer for Rhys Hoskins. So Jamie, when you saw the list of these 7 guys that were offered the qualifying offers, any thoughts, initial thoughts, surprises that came through your mind?
No. All people I would expect to get qualifying offers. Rhys, this actually is almost a favor to him because it almost improves his market, whether it ends up being short or long term. We'll see. I have a feeling he takes a short term deal, but Bryce still has to sit down with the Phillies if he hasn't already and let them know where he's going to play defense next year, which is pretty much the biggest hurdle of this early offseason. But no, nothing surprising. More of it is just a kind of a paperwork issue.
Yeah.
The qualifying offer comes in at $20.35 million. Basically, now they have until November 14th to decide whether to return on that 1-year deal, which let me just say right now, I don't think any of them will be because all of them can get more money on the open market. So the qualifying offer is based on the mean salary of the sport's 125 highest paid players. It's pretty crazy. It comes in at $20.34 million as the mean of the top 125. So it's more of a secretarial kind of paperwork or secretarial, I guess, thing. But it does also put a draft penalty on teams that are potentially going to sign them if they opt out. For example, if Nola opts out, the team that signs him is most likely going to have to give up, I think it comes out to like a second, a fifth, and then they lose $1 million of international pool money to sign one of these guys. So it doesn't mean a ton because Aaron Nola is clearly not going to take a 1-year, $20.3 million deal when the rumors and the rumors are already heating up in terms of years and money and all that. So it's more of just like something that happens. Again, Rhys Hoskins. Is there a scenario where he takes a 1-year, $20.3 million deal? There could be, but they clearly felt as though we'll put a little bit of protection on Nola. Not that I think it's going to do anything ultimately. The GM's meetings are happening out in Arizona right now, and it's the first time these agents and GMs get to sit down and talk, and you're going to see a lot more rumors coming out, and the hot stove is lukewarm, but it'll get hotter as we go here.
Yes. I mean, when you talk about deal or no deal, of course, all the reports indicating, just as we've talked about, that all 7 of these guys will probably decline. Matt Chapman is the 7th person. I know I was forgetting someone. And so, as you mentioned, there's a lot of steps that you have to take in this process, and it started Monday. This is step number 2, and for each of these guys, a 1-year deal, especially with the numbers that some of them, like Ohtani, are
I don't think he's taking a 1-year deal.
I don't think a 1-year deal is really
not
going
when
to
he has $500+ million on the table.
Listen, the numbers that he's projected to get signed for are way bigger than 20 million, which
Yeah.
is even crazy in itself. So in the chat, welcome guys. I know, can you scroll up a little bit for me, Tyler? My apologies. I wanted to make sure I hit on these comments in the chat. Zachary, you're saying, well, actually go up a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Zachary is saying, hopefully they find a way to move Walker. You think that they could get Snell and Nola into the rotation, some money coming out off the books. Kirkering would have to take a big step next year as well. Eugene Krabs, you're talking about voting Jalen Hurts for mayor, and of course, legs for days. Jamie, you're saying,
Yeah, it's high as 68 today. The shorts came back out.
yeah, you brought out shorts. I brought out like knee-high boots. So we're in opposite spots here. Marshall Lynch is just saying, pay everyone in all capitals, because pay everybody is I feel like the move. I don't know if you meant to have all your caps on, but you did.
Well, it's an uncapped sport, but they are relatively going to be working within a confinement. Like they're not going to spend much more than they did last year. And that competitive tax act affects these qualifying offers and the price you have to pay if you were to sign one of these guys. Now, with the other 6 guys that got qualifying offers yesterday, I don't think the Phillies are going to be in the market for any of them. So, you put that on Nola so that another team has to pay you. If it is, and it does seem like the St. Louis Cardinals are very much tied to Aaron Nola. But some of the money that is being discussed for him, you would think the Phillies would match. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Okay, yeah. Well, Renee, welcome in. Nice to have you here. I know Mopar, you're saying trade Schwarber, put Trey Turner at leadoff, sign Hoskins as DH, and put Harper at first base. You know that's wild. That is quite wild. And yes, all caps all the time. Marshall Lynch for Auntie Nay. Thank you. But no, it does. It puts some pressure on you. Once you start talking money, it's a bidding war, and it's like we talked about in the show yesterday. It's kind of that give and take. You have to give something to get something back, and kind of like dangling something out there to see what sticks and see what you can get back. If you aren't going to have Nola come back, you want to make sure you're financially getting some money for it. Same thing with Rhys Hoskins.
Or at least some draft capital in return.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's something that you have to get, whether it's draft capital or money. Something has to come from, a big name like Aaron Nola, Rhys Hoskins, if you aren't going to have them come back. So it is interesting because it is kind of that first, it's like when you're playing chess or checkers if you don't play chess. I play both. And you make that first move, it's like everything's contingent off of that, and now the others just follow suit. But I definitely am not surprised that these guys will absolutely reject these offers.
Yeah, sure. And Corey says,
nothing.
Don't forget about the draft picks. Yeah, I mean, by protecting Nola, you sign him to that offer sheet. He's going to opt out of it, obviously. But if another team signs him, and we'll get into that in a second, yes, it's going to cost that team a second, a fifth, and international pool money. So, it's a move that is kind of logical. Now, you can forget about a hometown discount with Nola because the GM meetings are happening in Arizona right now. They just had the Arizona Fall League All-Star game. I believe that was Sunday night. And then today, the GM meetings officially start. Now, I'm sure everybody was out there Saturday, Sunday, Monday, probably golfing, eating some nice steak dinners you can expense to the team.
It's the wine and dine schmoozing season.
Hobnobbing with the agents.
I guess our tickets got lost somewhere, Jamie.
Yeah, that's
we
all right.
should be out there.
We'll be out there at the next one. But yes, they've been out there, doing what agents and GMs do. And one of the guys I really trust when it comes to all the off-season, hobnobbing is Bob Nightingale. And Bob Nightingale, look, all journalists that break these types of stories, whether it's him or John Heyman, like that, each agent has their guy. And you can look for John Heyman to be the Scott Boras guy because he went on his podcast and they clearly worked together there. But Bob Nightingale is tied into some of the agents as well. And this is what he says in terms of, if there was anybody out there that's going, well, just Aaron Nola will give you a hometown discount because he loves it here. Bullshit.
Bullshit.
So according to several GMs, the early reports out of Arizona are that the St. Louis Cardinals have telegraphed their interest in Nola. Now, this dates back to, I want to say, was it late August, early September when somebody from the St. Louis Dispatch said Aaron Nola is going to be their number one.
Because it was prior to the final series down in St. Louis, I believe, is when we started first hearing those reports.
They are going to be all over him. Apparently, the Texas Rangers are in love with his durability, which makes sense. The Chicago Cubs, Boston Red Sox, San Francisco Giants, Baltimore Orioles, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Atlanta Braves are all teams, contenders in theory, that make sense as Nola suitors. So
It's got a lot of suitors.
yeah, well, he's a really good pitcher.
Yeah.
And he's durable, as the Texas Rangers, it comes out here in the Bob Nightingale reporting that, yeah, he's extremely durable. Me and Tyler were talking about it yesterday before the show. You can just pencil him in for like 200 Ks and 200 plus innings. It's like he doesn't get hurt. He's a workhorse, and, there's ups and downs to that, but his durability is going to get him some big money on the market. I would have thought him and Snell would be pretty similar, and they probably will be. But Aaron Nola is not giving the Phillies any sort of hometown discount, because why would he?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting when you take a look at, for each prospect across free agency, kind of like their ratings and rankings and details of why teams might be interested in them. And for Nola, it is exactly like you talk about, the fact that the durability, he's a workhorse, he's a guy that's obviously proven himself. And he's, since 2017, the only pitcher other than one other that has logged as many innings as he did, the most as a pitcher outside of Garrett Cole. So, I mean, you look at the fact that he's a guy you can rely on. You know he's going to be there even through the struggles of this season. I know we've talked about it. You've all talked about it, the ups and downs, that 4.46 ERA. Nola is still Aaron Nola. He still had a dominant postseason in 3 of 4 games for the most part, where he was consistently dominant. You know what you're going to get from him. And he's still 30 years old. I mean, he's still at a great age. So when you look across the board and you're for a team that's looking for a really good pitcher, it is interesting, because I think in Philly, we've seen him so up close and personal. I'm not going to say we take him for granted, but it's kind of like,
there's a degree of that.
It's kind of like going back to the dating analogies. Like, you have something new and flashy out there versus like the person you've been with for a long time that might get stale and boring after a while. Whereas other teams, like you mentioned, are salivating, licking their chops at the thought of being able to bring him in as a pitcher because of what they've seen from the outside looking in. I know, Ash, you're saying you're just tired of the Nola roller coaster. That's like the inside perspective. It's the 80-20 rule, guys. Do you know the 80-20 rule in dating? I mean, it's been a while since you've been on the market. So
it's been 20 plus years. Please explain to me this 80-20
Tyler, do you know the 80-20 rule?
I mean, it's been 10 for me. So.
It's just me. I'm just out here.
What is the 80-20 rule?
In this dating
Renee?
world myself, guys. Okay, so when you're dating, they say everybody you meet, there's an 80-20 rule. There's going to be 80% of things that you do like and 20% of things you don't like. And so you have to find, you're never going to find somebody that has the whole 100% package. Okay. It's finding that person that's got the 20%
with
you
the
can
least
tolerate.
Annoying 20%.
Bingo, the least annoying 20% you can tolerate. And so you have to find something you settle for a little bit and kind of deal with. And Aaron Nola, when you look at the 80-20 rule across the board,
I'll take his 20%.
His 20%, I think, might be better than some others, because you know what the 80% is. So that's the 80%.
And the 80% is really good and one of the better in baseball. Look, he's been a top 5 Cy Young candidate 2 of the last 5 seasons. This year, when it mattered the most, he stepped up for you. I'm in no way, shape, or form opposed to keeping Aaron Nola. Right. The question then becomes money. And we talked about yesterday speculation of what kind of like their early finances could look like. They have $46 million coming off the books with Nola, Kingery, Rhys, and Kimbrel. So if you work under the pretense that they're going to match last year's salary of around $237 million, you're roughly going to have between 55 and 60 to work with. So I think that's a good, kind of mark to set for what the Phillies are going to pursue here. Yeah. Now, Aaron Nola, there's a great website called MLB Trade Rumors, and they do a really good job of, rounding up all the rumors from all the reporters out there, looking back at past deals, and comparing them to what might be on the open market and all of that. And the belief from them, and I think they're actually very low on this, because I think this is a deal that the Phillies would match. They speculated in their top 50 free agent list that they just put out that Aaron Nola would get 6 years and $150 million. I think him and his agent, according to some of the reports, are looking for 8 years and $200. So then the question becomes, you also want to get a Zach Wheeler extension done. So, like, I'm not saying you have to choose, because there is a world where you can do both. But if Aaron Nola gets blown away by, say, the Cardinals or the Rangers or the Dodgers or whoever, do you want to start chasing open market value? And that's why some of the reports are now speculating, Blake Snell could get the Phillies' attention because Aaron Nola is very sought after.
Well, that's the tough part because as we are seeing with the Padres, at some point the money well does go dry and there is only so much you can spend. And so, yes, in a perfect world, obviously it's not our money regardless. You'd love to be able to just bring in all the best, but you have to financially make sure you can afford them. I think for Aaron Nola, it's a bigger gamble as you talk about with Wheeler because Wheeler is deserving of more money. But Aaron Nola is we're in a tough situation with him because personally, like I'm very torn. I like and dislike a lot of different aspects about Aaron Nola. I think the biggest thing I'm encouraged by is we know when to expect the Aaron Nola drop off. So as we're talking about, who else is out there, at least with Aaron Nola, you know what you're going to get. I know MBDBDBF is saying Blake Snell is a fraud. Please no.
I think that's a little extreme, MBD.
It might be fraudulent is a little extreme, but please no could be accurate. Guaranteed bust. Eugene Krabs is saying, Mopar saying decline. So you guys say no freaking way. Hypothetical man saying agreed. Rodon's deal is the floor. Like it's tough because it's not just a Nola factor. It's the rest. And then as you mentioned, it is how can you actually afford to keep Nola for what he's deserving? If he's looking for that 8-year deal, that's 6 years, 150 versus 8 years is.
So the same site compares, last year's market deals to this year and speculates. They're educated guesses, and that's all they are. And I think it's a fair ballpark to be in. There was reports last year that Nola turned down 180, and that the Phillies and his representation were several years and a couple, a lot of millions apart. He's probably going to get upwards of $200 million. Aaron Nola is probably going to get between 185 and 200. The same site speculates that Blake Snell and his team are going to be looking for a 7-year, $200 million deal. I don't think Blake Snell is a fraud at all. I think the three of us all came up with kind of our list of top 5 pitchers. I think we all have Blake Snell in our top 3. Pretty much every major publication out there with baseball writers agree that Blake Snell is either, 1, 2, or 3, depending on how you rank them and weigh the money. And yes, Zach, we'll talk about Yamamoto in a minute. But yeah, like Blake Snell, I don't think is a fraud at all. If they ended up with Blake Snell and Aaron Nola did go for big money to St. Louis, I'd be okay with that. Like, do I love the idea of 7 years for Blake Snell? Not really. And when we get to our list here, the reason I did my 4th and 5th pitchers is I believe something very firmly in that's that there's no bad 1-year deals in baseball. When you start, because you have to consider that Zach Wheeler aspect of this. Yeah. You probably want to sign him to a 3 or 4 year extension. That's going to cost you money. You do have to weigh with a slight degree your farm system and Andrew Painter in 2 years. Like, it's an uncapped sport, but every year of that Aaron Nola money you have to plan for and account for. And you kind of need to think, that 3 to 5 year window, because this window is kind of closing in regards to Castellanos and Schwarber and JT. Like, you're probably not going to see better years coming ahead. Like, they're all in their prime, approaching that area where things get worse. So, like, do you want to give Snell 7 years? Kind of sounds rough. So that's where you start exploring some of the other options. MBD, I don't know how I can be wrong about Blake Snell. All you have to do is look at his baseball reference sheet. He's a pretty good pitcher. Like, you might believe he's not worth the 7 years, $200 million, and that's perfectly fine. Everybody's entitled, but he is a good pitcher. I didn't really know that was up for debate. I would choose Nola over him personally, but he's had. Tyler, you want to hop in on Blake Snell because he's looking for help. He's a good pitcher. I don't know what is a debate about that.
What MBD is going off of is the high career walk rate, the near 5 per 9. I'm just reading his comments here. The expected ERA was 3.77, and when you post a 2.85 and your expected ERA is 3.77, that tells you that you're probably I don't believe that you're one full, like you're exactly that number worse. You're probably somewhere in between. So if you're a 3.77 xERA and your ERA is 2.85, I think, or something like that, I think he was this year. If you're
His ERA was
2.25.
2.25, so it's a point and
with
a
a
half.
6 WAR.
So it's a point and a
Yeah.
half different. If you split the difference and you say it's a 0.75 difference, you're looking at a 3 ERA pitcher. He still would have been good this year. I agree with you on the fact that, and I think that MBD probably feels the same way. Like, it's Nola over Snell for me. And
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But
if
Blake
you
Snell's
can't-
nothing to sneeze at.
no, I'm not gonna believe you, or I'm not gonna believe to say that he's like a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, he has an opportunity to be the 7th pitcher ever to win a Cy Young in both leagues. There's
Yeah.
merit to that in some extent.
He threw a 1.89
exactly.
ERA back with Tampa and followed it up this year with a 2.25. I mean, if you just go off ERA alone, a 3.3, a 4.2, a 3.3, a 4.2, a 1.8, a 4, a 3.5. That all probably kind of balances out to, for his career, it's a 3.2. So like you said, if you split the difference, Tyler, like a 3 ERA pitcher over the course of a season is, when did that become a bad thing?
Yeah.
And by the
I
way,
don't know.
that's just me picking like a number, right? I'm not saying that that's exactly what it would, and that's not fair to just blanket say cut that number in half and throw it on
Yeah.
in either direction. I think that that's a fair assessment enough where you have enough of a sample size. If you do cut that in half, a 3 ERA still is. It's a darn good season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MBD says, give me Eduardo Rodriguez. And believe me, he was a guy I thought about putting in my 5, and he's a guy we'll get to because I believe he's in Tyler's 5.
Yeah.
But Blake Snell is certainly no bad consolation prize. And let me
at
just say
all.
this for the record. I also kind of like hate his face a little bit.
And that's what I think, to be honest.
I think aesthetically he annoys people because he doesn't look like that kind of cold-blooded killer pitcher.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to get the lefty also in here.
I mean, I also just.
What do you
get
want him to look
the
like? A
vibe.
serial killer?
I just kind of, there's something
there
like
are-
maybe
there
it's
are
just
some
because he broke
people-
Harper's thumb.
That's
I don't know.
what I was gonna say. I was gonna.
I
say
don't know,
the
something
same
about his
thing.
face.
I know Ash is mentioning in the chat about breaking Harper's thumb. You guys are talking about his face. I know somebody else mentioned it as well. Eugene's calling him Snellzilla. I just think that he's a guy that people don't like, and
I think that's
MVD's
part
bringing
of
up
it, yeah.
stats too. But I think it's also just he's someone you look at and you're kind of like, no, it's not him. I don't know.
I don't know what it is about
so
your
something
face,
about
but I just wanna punch it.
and I get that because there are some people that. Regardless what they do, just because of what they look like, you're not going to like them.
Sure.
Period.
Yeah.
And then breaking Harper's thumb,
That doesn't help.
that does not help at all. So I'm actually gonna say maybe there's a little bias there that you don't like him statistically because you also don't like him aesthetically and what he looks like and how he carries himself and the name Snell in itself. Maybe it's his name, who knows? But yeah, we do want to get into talking through
He's
our
not
top
worth the money.
fives.
I mean, I don't know how you guys quantify that.
I think
It's
that's
like,
a great segue into being able to talk about the
He won the Cy Young.
top 5 starting
not
pitchers
bad.
that are available because there are some Cy Young finalists, some big names, whether you like them or you don't, that are available right now. And, as we're also talking through it, just a quick reminder, you can always go to FOCO and be able to shop there. And you know what? Retail therapy helps. When you don't like the way somebody looks, you're mad about something, you're frustrated about something, go get some retail therapy. And FOCO allows you to do just that. You can go onto their website and be able to purchase any sort of merchandise, overall shirts, bobbleheads. Maybe you want to buy that bobblehead and break it because you don't like the way that Snell looks. I don't know. But you can go to FOCO, you can use that code PHLY and be able to get 10% off. So again, for those of you listening live or listening back on our podcast platforms, you can be able to use that code PHLY at FOCO in order to be able to check out all their merchandise, apparel, gear, all the things that they have there to be able to represent your favorite teams, or maybe buy for your least favorite teams and smash it and break it. I don't know, whatever works for you, have at it. All right, let's now move along because I think it's a great segue as MBDBDBF is talking about Blake Snell. You alluded to the fact that we have taken time to put together our top 5 realistic starting pitchers.
Yeah, why don't you kick us off?
And so this is just to give you guys context. We're taking a look across the market if we're shopping at who the top 5 are, now we each have our top 5 gauged off of different reasons.
No,
and
my
we'll
number
explain
5,
why.
I'll tell you right now, is not going to be popular in the chat. I can already
We like
tell
that.
you.
Controversial and something different.
It's a gambling
is
move.
Making people think differently is fine. So we all agree that there are 3 names that, without a doubt, should be on your top 5. But according to some, like MBDBDBF, one of these guys is not in your top 5, possibly. So you've got Aaron Nola, who's speculated at that 6-year, $150 deal. We all know what Aaron Nola brings.
He's going to get more.
We've got Blake Snell, who's rumored around that 7-year, $200 million deal. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 9 years, $225 million is what's been estimated for him
That's
as
horrifying.
a number. And those are the 3 that, without a doubt, we have to say are with the 3 of the top 5 starting pitchers out there. Let's take a look at their stats. Let's start with Aaron Nola. You said there's no hometown discount. Let's start with some hometown service here. Looking at Aaron Nola's stats first, because Aaron Nola is a guy that we've gotten to see up close and personal. We know what the fourth inning can bring. We know what the ups and downs, the frustration can bring. But Aaron Nola still, since 2017, the second highest starting pitcher that has played the most minutes. So logged over 1,200 innings. That's 1,233 innings that Nola's been able to pitch in. He's a worker. He's a vet. He's an ace. And Tyler, if you want to flash that graphic up, actually, we can talk through Nola before we move along into Blake Snell. He may have struggled at times, but he still had
that's a down year for him.
4.46 ERA. It is a down year for him. Finishing with 202 strikeouts. That's what the 5th season he's had over 200 strikeouts. That 1.151 WHIP. And for this postseason specifically, with a 2.35 ERA, 23 strikeouts, 3-1. Of course, we know what that one game was. But a career high 32 home runs allowed in 2023 and has not missed a start in 5 seasons. So again, going back to that number I mentioned, he's logged the second highest innings in any pitcher since 2017 at 1,233.
And that's what the Rangers are telling Bob Nightingale. The durability is worth big money.
He's like the battery commercial where they're like banging on the drum, the durable, like ding, like you already know what you're going to get from Aaron Nola.
Yeah, you can pretty much pencil him in.
He's predictable. Yeah.
What do you say, Will, in the chat? Thanks for hopping in and joining us today. Yeah. So where does Nola fall on your top 3 in terms of 1, 2, or 3? Like if you had your choice, Nola, Snell, Yamamoto, where does he fall for you? Because for me, I'll tell you right now, he's number 1. Aside from just the comfortability, I think the durability, the consistency, the big game kind of last 2 years for him, I have him first because Yamamoto and the money and the lack of Japanese pitchers that have successfully made the jump has got me a little bit scared. I mean, if you're talking 9 years, $225 million for Yamamoto, that's big money. And if that doesn't work out, that's a financial anchor on you for close to a decade. So I got a little scared off by him. So I actually had Nola number 1 on that list of the top 3.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. I know people aren't going to think that's the sexiest, but I'll take him ahead of Snell and I'll take him ahead of Yamamoto just because as intriguing as that is, $225 million in 9 years, if it's in that ballpark, that is a huge gamble.
Yeah, I know. MBG, you're still on the Snell train, saying anybody who says Snell's getting blocked. You are so fired up on this Tuesday. You know what? I love comparing everything to a metaphor or whatever. So for me, this is similar to like the recruiting process that I went through as an athlete. You have the reach school, you have your safe school, and you have your fallback school, the one that you don't really want to go there.
My fallback school put me on a wait list.
Oh.
I got in every other school, and then the one I used as my safety school put me on like the wait list. And I was like, you're my safety school.
Well, your safety school is probably very on par to what many may call Blake Snell. You're supposed to be the safety school, but you might waitlist me, and it might not be great after all. I think Aaron Nola is your true right in the middle. I think Yamamoto is the reach because you really just don't know what you're going to get from him.
It's
Obviously, we've seen statistically what he's done. 3rd consecutive pitching crown, in the equivalent of what's the Cy Young in the Japanese league. He also has had that fastball that's tremendous. He's someone that is just 25 years old, and he really has broken onto the scene on the international side, but we haven't seen him in Major League Baseball. Here's the numbers for Yamamoto's season: 17-6 1.17 ERA, 176 strikeouts, an 860 whip. He's got that mid-90s fastball. Sometimes actually I've seen high 90s as well that he can tap into. His splitter is the best pitch, and he's back-to-back Pacific League MVP, as well as posting an, oh wow, it's like the font's getting smaller. His posting fee is approximately, 25, is that a
25 million just straight up to his club.
Lord. So
and that's not even taking into account his contract. So that's 25 million you got to go out of pocket just to give his Japanese club.
He's the reach school.
And then you got to go 225. So basically it's going to cost the Phillies, probably between the ballpark of 225 million and 250 million to go get Yamamoto. I have him third of those top three. I have Snell second just because there's a track record with Snell.
So technically I didn't finish my answer. Let me actually answer because I was getting to a long way to give it a short answer. So I actually think Yamamoto for another team is the number one guy. If you're trying to take that next step of being maybe a deep run postseason team, or, you have to make a major change in your pitching, because he is, again, 25. He's got great command. He's got a great fastball. He could have a high upswing. There's a lot of potential there that we just haven't seen him, obviously, in the majors to know fully what that translates to in Major League Baseball. But you get him with the right pitching coach, you get him with the right team, I think there could be a lot of upswing there. But on the financial side, a huge risk. I think for the Phillies specifically, being one game shy of the NLCS, being that they got to the World Series last year, they don't need to make a drastic move in terms of a starting pitcher. Financially, that's not the priority to just lock in an ace. They need to have a starting pitcher that can be the number two to our Batman and Zach Wheeler, but also still have some financial capital and even, looking ahead, being able to afford some more bullpen arms. So I think for the Phillies, it is Aaron Nola. I said all that to agree with you, Jamie. But for other teams, if you're looking at, if we're not the Phillies and you're somebody else looking at this list, I think it's Yamamoto that's your number one guy.
Wow.
Tyler, what about you?
So I believe in transparency and honesty, and so I'm going to say two things, and then I'm going to tell you.
None of us have seen Yamamoto pitch.
That's number one. I've not watched this kid pitch
Only
a
what we
single
read
second.
in the
Not a single second have I watched this guy play baseball.
Page.
And I'm not even going to say I did in the in any kind of World Baseball Classic form. I've not
That's
watched.
what opened a lot of people's eyes to him. The World Baseball Classic was kind of that first step that put him on the map in a big way.
Yeah, I've not watched this guy pitch. The numbers are good, like you talked about. He has an opportunity to be to win a third consecutive Pacific League MVPs in the running this year. He's won it the last two seasons. The splitter is filthy from the clips that I've seen. Now, granted, they're only going to show you the best splitters. They're not going to throw you the ones that fall flat.
You're not going to throw you the cookies?
I have no idea. I have no idea what this guy is.
You mean the highlight reel is not going to be non-highlights?
No, probably not. So that's number one. The next thing to me in transparency is I think about 8 weeks ago I tweeted that I would drive Aaron Nola to whatever city he wants to sign in. 8 weeks later, I think I'm a moron. Because at this point, I think that there is a calmness in a calamity of free agency that because you're not getting Shohei Ohtani, it's just not happening, right? That's everybody's number one. That's the gold mine. But
I didn't even consider him.
But outside in the next group of guys, Snell's Snell's ceiling, I believe, to be higher than Aaron Nola, but his floor is so much lower than Aaron Nola.
Sure.
And Yamamoto, to me, again, becomes that unknown commodity that if he succeeds in Major League Baseball, best of luck, and whoever signs him is going to get a damn good player.
Yeah.
But I'm not so sure that I'm ready to commit $200 and some odd million to a guy that I've not had the opportunity to potentially see myself.
Yeah, and what's that going to prevent you from down the line? If Castellanos or Schwarber's gone in a year,
right,
and you need to spend on a left fielder, do you have that money? Mopar in the chat says, I cannot imagine Yamamoto getting 9 years. I can't either. But MLB Trade Rumors does a pretty good job in the offseason with this stuff. So even if he's not going to get 9, I think it's fair to speculate he's going to get probably 6 or 7 as a floor.
Mm-hmm.
Him and his agent probably are going to have teams bidding over him, and they can probably dictate a little bit. So 9 years might be a stretch, but even then, you're probably looking at something similar to what Snell and Nola are going to be getting, and that's that 6 to 7, maybe $185 million deal. That's a big pill to swallow. So there's a lot of risk involved with him, but
a lot of risk.
The numbers are nasty, and he's definitely intriguing. Like if they signed him, I'm going to get Yamamoto'd up
for sure.
But I was kind of stunned when I saw the speculated numbers, because typically with a Japanese player, like, you have to go out of pocket to pay the club, and usually their salary is way more manageable than that. To give a guy, you know, that 28 to 32 million a year or whatever it ends up being, I'm a gambler, but I don't know if I'm gambling with John Middleton's money there.
Well, there's so many factors that are at play here. I know Hypothetical Man saying in the chat as well, talking about the Japanese game being different. You know, I always get nervous. I love the fact that sports have grown and that we have more international talents that you're bringing in. But you don't really have anything to compare it to. And like you're saying, Tyler, we haven't seen him. We don't know what he's like in the majors. That's the benefit of having, you know, AAA. You kind of get a better sense of how guys may translate into their play, may translate into the majors. But for Yamamoto, we can't compare because who he's pitching against, we have no sample size or understanding of that. So the numbers look great. And I know Tyler Zulli is getting all the love in the chat. I love that because he is our very own Siri here. But it's concerning because it's a huge risk and it's a financial risk. Not only is he 25 and definitely very young, but financially it's a lot of money you have to spend for him, which is why I think it's more, you know, for those teams that might be in a build or trying to take that big leap or a risk in that sense, because he could be great. He could not be great. I always even say things like injuries happen.
Yeah, like
even
if the Dodgers don't get him, they're going to go get Yamamoto.
Coming into a whole new environment. Not everybody can make that next step of like where you're playing now to moving into the majors. There's so many other factors that we know really can affect how an athlete performs, how they're playing. And Yamamoto, I don't know what that looks like for him. What is he like if he's in a loud environment like Citizens Bank Park or living in, you know, St. Louis, wherever he is? You know, that's the types of things that you also have to keep in mind. So it's very interesting. I know we all have agreed that Snell is not our number one, but is still in the top three without a doubt.
Yeah.
He's definitely in the top three. I don't know. I'm leaning towards Aaron Nola as the number one for the Phillies specifically. Then I would, if I had to choose, I actually think Blake Snell's a better fit for the Phillies, and then I'd go Yamamoto. But if I'm not the Phillies, if I'm another team, it's Yamamoto that I actually would take the risk. I don't mind a little gamble. Look, why not? You know what you're going to get from Snell and Nola and Ohtani, who's not playing this year, or pitching this year, I should say. So why not take a little gamble?
The thing that scares me is if you look at these Japanese pitchers, Ohtani, yes, but he's like baseball Jesus. He's an alien from another planet. So he's kind of almost the exception to the rule. You had Dice K, who gave you like that year or two with the Sox. You had Tanaka, who gave you like a year or two with the Yankees. Maeda for the Dodgers never really worked out. A lot of these guys don't work out, and it's an overwhelming percentage, and that's why like I got scared off by seeing the speculation on years. Like, yeah, he could come over and be a flash in the pan for 2 years and be great, but like 6, 7 to up to 9 years, do you really want to commit to that when it's hard for these guys to come over? It's been proven over time that, you know, Major League Baseball is better. The Japanese league is great, but it's a different ball game over here.
Or is this a change in the game that we're seeing a change in Japanese baseball, being able to create and have these top prospects that can follow in the footsteps of Shohei and Yamamoto? Who knows? Because I get that's a good point you're making.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys haven't had success.
I'm just speculating, but without a doubt, it could be the opposite, that maybe for Japanese baseball players, they're taking a look at what's being done in the majors and refining their youth process or whatever else to be able to make the step into Major League Baseball. I don't know. I do see that change happening in other sports with respective countries and leagues, but maybe the Yamamoto is like the next step. But let's go on.
I mean, I'm going to be watching
Snell
him wherever he's pitching next year.
Yeah. Yes. Because we can talk about
he's
Yamamoto for an entire show. But let's get into Blake Snell's numbers really quickly before we share our number 4 and 5 picks. Blake Snell is an interesting one. We know MBDBDBF does not like Blake Snell.
He's going to be fired up. Yeah,
getting
Snell
super fired up in the chat. Snellzilla, as Eugene Krabs calls him, 14-9 record this season, a 2.25 ERA. He's had 234 strikeouts, a 1.189 WHIP. He did lead Major League Baseball in walks with 99. 99 is like so close to 100.
He's got 99 problems, and a walk is one.
All of them. And the splits of 181, 293, 286. Career best at that. And then he would become the 7th pitcher all time.
Well, he's going to be,
all time to win the Cy Young in both leagues. So as you're ready to completely throw him out the window, MBDBDBF and everybody else in the chat that is anti-Blake Snell,
he's a fine consolation prize to me.
Whew, yeah.
I understand the walk rate. He averages, I think, for his career, 4.1 walks per 9. Look, not every pitcher is perfect. Everybody has their flaws, even Aaron Nola. You can find flaws with him. Yamamoto, there's flaws because there's a risk with Japanese guys translating. So David Montgomery, did he have a career year in postseason? Does he have the track record of an Aaron Nola? No. So you can find a hole in every one of these guys. Blake Snell, I think, is a lot better, than some people are giving him credit for. And if that's their focus, I'm okay with it. I'd prefer Nola. But Blake Snell certainly is cool with me.
Yeah. So that's Tyler. I don't know if you gave your official 1 through 3 actually. So I'm gonna toss it back to you before we move on to our 4 and 5.
Yeah. So for me, it is. And by the way, you guys were talking about the Japanese players coming over and having a middling amount of success. I think age has a lot to do with it.
Sure, and he's young.
If you take a look at some of the guys that have
they're
succeeded,
usually like 27, 28.
It's a little bit of an older range. You talked about Kenta Maeda, and he had a decent first 2 seasons with the Dodgers, but he was 28 when he came over. The one guy that I think has had a lot of success, and I shouldn't say a lot of success, but enough Major League Baseball success because he did have one really poor year, but he had a couple of really strong years, is Hyunjin Ryu, who I think was really good with the Dodgers. He had a really good year with the Blue Jays, and then he had a really bad year, in between. So I think that the age plays a huge factor into it. Yamamoto only being 25, I think, elevates his status a little bit. The money for me is a lot, but again, we play this game like we all say, and we say it with our chest. It's not my money, so say it with your chest. If it's not your money,
it's
go
not,
sign the guy.
But you do have to worry about the upcoming years.
Sure. So to answer your question, my answer on that on this question, and this is going to sound insane coming off of a guy's about to win a Cy Young, it's probably Nola, Yamamoto, Snell for me.
That's how I am.
As my voice cracks, by the way.
No, I said, I don't remember. Oh yeah, I said.
You were Nola one, Yamamoto.
Yeah, for
too.
the Phillies, I was Nola, Snell, Yamamoto.
Yeah, so we pretty much all agree on the top 3. The order a little bit different. Now this is where it's going to get interesting. The 4th and 5th pitchers. Now the way I did it may be a little different than the way you guys did it. My 4th and 5th pitchers are probably not the overall 4th or 5th best pitchers available. Because those would probably go to David Montgomery and Sonny Gray. Maybe you could make a case for an Eduardo Rodriguez or Marcus Stroman. But mine were, all right, if I go get these guys on kind of 1-year prove-it deals, it leaves me a lot more money to potentially go get a Josh Hader or, an outfielder or somebody else that I believe could help the team in another way. So we kind of all did it a little bit differently. Renee, you want to kick us off with your 4th and 5th?
Like you were teeing it up for yourself.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, Rick, thank you. Rick is saying the way I say MBDBDBF sounds cool. Appreciate that.
It does roll right off your tongue. I don't know how you do it.
And I didn't realize as I'm watching, by the way, also that I'm like, I'm like blending it with the wall, but that's okay. So the people that I pick do not blend in. They stand out. I'm going to go first with Jordan Montgomery, who I feel like his stock has definitely gone up. 30 years old, I think, for Montgomery, coming off of a World Series with the Rangers. I like the progression that I've seen from Montgomery in the last couple years. Now, this past season, 10-11 record, 3.20 ERA, 166 strikeouts, that 1.193 whip. His ERA did fall from 3.42 to 2.79 after the trade. He kept the ball in the yard. Oh my gosh, Tyler, you're really testing my eyes here. But I can see it. I got this. Hard hit percentage is down 4% from 2022, and he was traded from St. Louis to Texas at the trade deadline. And actually, since that time when he joined the Cardinals back in the 2022 season, between then and now, his ERA, 3.17 ERA over 252.1 innings and 43 regular season starts, and also only one of 11 starting pitchers that produced a high WAR according to Fangraphs. And so I think he's in good company, and I also feel like his stock went up because we did get to see him in the postseason. We did get to see him in 5 starts and 6 postseason games with a 2.90 ERA this past postseason, a 1.35 WHIP, 31 innings pitched, gave up 11 runs and 37 very concerning hits, but 17 strikeouts and 5 walks. So after playing just 11 games with Texas and then going right into a postseason, that's a tough spot to be thrown into after the trade deadline.
He was great in the postseason.
And I thought he was great. I agree. And I felt like the 11 games to me makes sense that he would struggle because you're making a change in from St. Louis into Texas and you're just coming right in. But then I thought come postseason, we saw him really settle in. So I see Jordan Montgomery as someone that really took advantage of this World Series championship to raise his stock. Left-handed pitcher. I would bring him in as a starting pitcher. And then the other person, and I'm glad you agree with me, Mickey, and he would look nice in a Phillies jersey, Eugene Krabs. So the other one is Sonny Gray. It's always sunny in Philadelphia, guys, and there's never a gray cloud. But today there is one. It's Sonny Gray. So 8-8 record, 2.79 ERA, 183 strikeouts, 1.147 WHIP. He did lead Major League Baseball in home runs for 9 innings pitched and FIP. Second best strikeout to walk ratio in his career, and he did have 56 for Minnesota.
That's supposed to say starts. That's a bad graphic by me. 56 starts.
You know what it always reminds me of is when you go to the doctor and the letters get smaller as you go down.
I just did it like last week.
Yeah, it's like I feel like I'm doing the eye test here. Made 56 starts. So Sonny Gray is another one. He did have in my opinion, a fine season in his 11th year. At 33 years old, he's in a little bit of a different spot. I think what I like about Sonny Gray, I know Mickey, you're saying he's too old, but I think he's a plug and play guy. I wouldn't give him anything more than like a 3-year deal. I think with what he's been able to do, although he's older, you can put him right in. You don't have to worry about that learning curve. And so I think for the Phillies specifically, where they are looking to, it's right now that the Phillies are looking to win. He's someone you don't have to worry about taking time to develop and progress and figure himself out. And so I think that this past season was one of his stronger seasons. And I would take a risk on Sonny Gray as maybe a 2-year, 3-year deal type of a guy that you can get maybe a title out of having him being one of your starting pitchers.
His speculation on the open market is 4 years, $90 million. He's turning 30. He's turning 34 years old. I'm out on Sonny Gray. I don't want to commit that type of years or money to a guy that's probably seen his best baseball. This past year was probably his best baseball. I don't want to pay a premium on that. I'm out on Sonny Gray personally, but you can certainly do worse. But at 34, I have very little appeal there. So I'll jump into mine, and then we'll get Tyler's, and then we got a fun little game we're going to get to also. My number 4 is a guy that was out in Oakland for a while. I got him in fantasy baseball every year, it seemed like, the 3 years prior to last, because he was always just like kind of undervalued, wasn't really appreciated out in Oakland. I think you can get him on another 1-year prove-it type of deal, and that's Frankie Montas. Who was with the Athletics, kind of made his bones there, took a 1-year prove-it kind of deal with the Yankees last year. I believe he pitched in 8 games before having season-ending injury. I think you could get him, and the speculation on him is a 1-year, $15 million deal. If you believe that Andrew Painter is going to bounce back, it's kind of like a good gap year kind of guy to get you to those MBD, Josh Hader and Blake Snell are not nearly as bad as you're making them out to be. But Frankie Montas, there's no bad 1-year deals. He's still young. He's going to be playing for a contract if you're able to get him on that 1-year deal. I like Frankie Montas. I would be somewhat excited if they signed him. And then my number 5 guy, and this is going to be unpopular, but I've had an infatuation with him since he came up with the Cardinals.
That's always a great way to lead into it.
Well, this is a gamble. Let me just preface this with this is a gamble. And MBD, cover your ears. You might not like this. Maybe you will. I don't know.
You're working him back around. He said he's coming back to your side.
The Frankie, we're Frankie guys together. Me and MBD, we're Frankie guys. Now, my number 5 guy, this is not going to be popular. It's probably the only time you're going to hear somebody mention him with the Phillies. 1-year deal, Jack Flaherty. Now, if you're reading his numbers over the last 2 or 3 years, they're trending in the wrong direction. I am not going to sit here and sugarcoat it for you. He had almost a 5 ERA, did have 148 Ks, and a 1.58 WHIP last year, which is absolutely gross. But I know there's a great pitcher in there. He had some phenomenal years with St. Louis when he was healthy. He had an injury that kind of set him back. This is a complete gamble of a move that you can get the guy's best. And this is where Caleb Cotham and how much you kind of believe in him as a pitching coach would come into. Yeah, I'm aware, Flo, man. I told you this wasn't going to be a popular decision. He is not trending in the right way. I think you could get him really cheap, allowing you to spend a lot of money elsewhere. I know, Mopar, it's great. You can hit me with all the puke emojis you want. He is a complete gamble with potential upside that is, I think, up there with the best on the market if you can find who he was in St. Louis. So that's my number 5. I understand it's not popular. I understand not a lot of people are going to do it. And I've just had this weird infatuation. He was one of the top prospects in baseball. And you know, maybe you can tap into that and find him. And he's not going to cost you anything. Like, the risk is low outside of, you know, I'm not penciling him in as the team's number 2. He would probably be the team's number 5. But you know, I'm in.
Well, I mean, that also is where we are with starting pitchers, that after like the top 3, maybe 4, it gets very hairy and scary. From there, we each had a very, you know, solid number 4 and a questionable number 5. Tyler, I'm interested to see if you're going to get Siri. What's your number 4 and number 5?
So I kind of split the difference between the two of you. I went with one arm that I was,
and I considered one of your guys a lot.
Has a lot of potential. The other one is a kind of one of those Sly Jamie type moves that, I mean, could work out well.
Sneaky.
And like Jamie said, we'll talk about him in just a second. But 1-year deals are always, I think, not always good, but they're very frequently bad across baseball. So my number 4 guy. And I hope somebody in the chat is going to calm down a little bit, because we're going to name this guy as Eddie Rodriguez.
Eduardo!
He opted out of a 3 years left of his deal with $39 million left on it, which tells me that he believes his market value is at least $15 or $16 million per season.
And he's probably right.
Had a really, really good year last year with the Tigers.
Would you like to hear what his speculation is?
Yeah, go ahead.
His speculation on the open market is a 4-year, $82 million deal.
Yeah, that sounds about right, because you were willing to give 4 years, 72 to Taijuan Walker, and I think Eduardo Rodriguez is a significantly better pitcher than Taijuan Walker.
I would agree with you.
I would shell that money out in a second. Now, of course, Rodriguez declined a trade. He had a no trade clause or a no movement clause. He declined it to the LA Dodgers, and there is speculation that he likes being in Detroit, and he may restructure that contract a little bit. But if you look at his numbers from last season, all career best in batting average, opponent's batting average, opponent's on base percentage, opponent's on slugging percentage. The one thing that does concern you a little bit is there is a little bit of a dip in velo, and with a dip in velo, oftentimes comes a dwindling strikeout rate. And he's going to get a little bit older, and that's going to continue to happen. You saw over the course of the first 3 months of the year, his velo was up at about 93. And in turn, that made his, OBP and slugging down, opponent's OBP and slugging down. It went down, the velo did, as the months went on, which means, it was a tired arm. It was kind of, it's almost hypocritical of me to say that because of Taijuan Walker and how much I hate him, but I think Rodriguez's stuff is significantly better than Taijuan Walker's. So Eduardo Rodriguez is my big time money spend this offseason.
And that
Do
money
you have a second one, or is it just...
that's manageable money too. It's not like you're breaking the bank for Eduardo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and then the second one is, we talked about the 1-year deals. This guy is about to be 37 years old. I don't anticipate him pitching much longer across baseball, but he's kind of he's kind of reinvented himself a little bit over the last couple of years. He's pitched for 3 different teams, and it's lefty Wade Miley. He had a 3.14 ERA last year. He doesn't strike a lot of guys out, but he keeps the ball in the yard. He also does not give up a lot of hard contact. He's probably going to sign a short-term deal. He pitched with Cincinnati, Chicago, and Milwaukee over the last 3 seasons, and he's been good in each of those markets with the sub 3.4 ERA. In different types of ballparks, right? You have Cincinnati, which is a hitter's ballpark. Milwaukee's a little more pitcher-friendly. I thought he was really good last year as well. Listen, when he has a fall-off, he's going to fall off really, really hard.
and I would say so.
And if it's next year, then so be it. But if you're able to get a guy, on a 1-year, $8 to $11 million contract that gives you another lefty in the rotation, somebody that knows how to pitch and is going to give you innings if he stays healthy, I would take a flyer on Wade Miley, just like you would take a flyer on Jack Flaherty.
Yeah.
Well, I like that we were consistent and that our number 5 was like a solid person that we felt great about. And number 4 was, and number 5 is kind of iffy. A little bit of a question mark, a little bit of a gamble. Each of us gambling in a different way. Also consistent that none of us brought up Shohei Ohtani. Specifically looking for the Phillies, I think it doesn't make sense. I know everyone's a fan of Ohtani's game, but knowing that he's not going to be able to pitch this upcoming season, will be someone that of course can hit, but won't be a two-way player up until the 2025 season. So for the Phillies specifically, makes no sense, no matter how much of a fan you are of Shohei Ohtani. But what does make sense is Hero Bread, because Hero Bread is a place you can have some delicious, healthy, nutritious options. And over at Hero Bread, they have taken time to really find bread, tortillas, sliced bread, rolls, whatever it is that allow you to be able to, depending on what your dietary restrictions are, health concerns, anything else, not have to worry about it. And that's something that's very unique. So with Hero Bread, you can get some fluffy, delicious, tasty, high fiber, ultra low net carbs, and with 0 grams sugar per slice, Hero Bread allows you to have that delicious sandwich or nice wrap or breakfast burrito, whatever it is, without having to worry about the other things, the carbs, the health risks. So over at Hero Bread, you can use that code PHLY. It does get you 10% off. You go to hero.co. There's no M in it. It's hero.co. Use that code PHLY to get 10% off today for a nice substitution and alternative to how you are eating your sandwiches or any sort of bread that you're eating, to make sure it's healthy and delicious at the same time.
Yeah,
but I think,
just before we move on, some of the other names that are out there starting pitcher-wise that we didn't name that are probably like the best remaining on the market, you're going to have Shota Imanga, who's the other Japanese pitcher, and I probably butchered that, and forgive me. He's one. Eduardo Rodriguez, Tyler mentioned. You have Lucas Giolito, Marcus Stroman, Michael Wacha. So those are some of the other, and I say big in quotations if you're listening on the podcast and not on. So, it's certainly not the deepest pool in the world. There's a lot of like former top prospect guys that haven't really panned out, hence like Jack Flaherty and Giolito and Wacha. So, outside of those top 5 or 6, we have this assumption that the Phillies are going to get one of these guys. There's also, and somebody said, and I agree, like Wade Miley's a great depth piece, but not somebody to replace Nola. Oh, God, no. There is a scenario where, Ranger Suarez could have to step into your number 2 role. Yeah. And then everybody kind of moves up. And I saw a couple of other people chatting about trading Taijuan Walker. Good luck. Mm-hmm. I don't know who's knocking down the door for 3 years of Taijuan Walker. So, we do have to have this a little rooted in reality.
Yes.
Teams aren't knocking down your door for Taijuan Walker.
Yeah, there's got to be interest, and there's definitely got to be a deal that makes sense. And you're not just trying to give away Taijuan Walker. You want to make sure you can get, whether it's draft picks or money, something, or a player. Something has to come back in that deal. And so I don't know that Taijuan Walker's stock has gone up at all. It's gone down. And that is definitely something that's a concern and a reason why you wouldn't be able to get rid of him. But I know that you guys are definitely talking about, in the chat, different names. We're going to continue to talk through free agency, taking a look at the money, who's available. I know today we were focusing on starting a pitcher specifically, but I know somebody brought up Mike Trout and different names in the chat. We're going to continue to really unpack all of this. So with that being said, let's have some fun. Let's break this up a little bit, have a little bit of fun before we wrap up here, because it's been free agency heavy, but we do have a new little segment for you guys where we're going to be able to guess the ballpark, or try to at least. Now, this is difficult. Across Major League Baseball, there are so many different
It's
ballparks.
the weirdest sport.
It is a very odd sport. So
that
what
there's
we've
no
done
uniformity
is
amongst
Tyler
stadiums.
Zulli has taken time to be able to, and Chris Frezza put together some ballparks. It's just the outline of it. Jamie and I have no idea at all which ballpark they've picked.
I guess
you guys
out
can
there.
help us guess in the chat. We're going to try to guess.
We're going to
do
one a day. And
yes.
when I was talking to Vince out yesterday when I was telling him this idea, I said, I think I might be able to get like 10 to 12. And he said, if you think you can get 12, I'm pounding the under on that.
Oh, Lord.
There is 0 chance you get 12 out of 30 of these.
Yeah.
No and I don't mean that to be disrespectful to
really
your baseball knowledge.
If you don't
these
think you
are
can get 12.
freaking hard.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think there's like 5 or 6 pretty iconic ones that
Correct.
should be able to be had. And then I'm just kind of hoping maybe some other
with you
outfield
guys-
walls look recognizable.
With your help in the chat, with all of our minds together, there's like 2 good minds between all of us here and in the chat total. It's a joke. We can guess this. So make sure you guys are commenting in the chat with which ballpark you think this is. Again, it's one of the 30 across Major League Baseball. We have no idea. You have no idea. Tyler knows the answer. And we're going to try to guess.
You don't have to name the
ballpark.
ballpark. You can say the team because I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Like, I don't know the names of every
the
single
corporate
field
nonsense
or,
that goes on with
changes
naming
every
rights
2 to 3
anymore.
years.
If you can
all
give me the team, we're cool.
Same thing, actually.
Like some of them, listen, if you get to the one that you're one of the ones that Jamie you're alluding to, like you better know what it's called. It's been called that for 120 years.
All right,
but
this is gonna be hard.
yes, okay.
I'm so nervous.
Here's your outline.
I don't like surprises. Oh my gosh. It looks like a cheetah or leopard.
I'm going to go.
Wait.
I'm going to go Petco Park.
This is not including
Or San Diego Padres if they change their name. I don't know.
This is not including seating. It's strictly just
the park.
Okay.
The field.
Oh.
I'm going Padres. Because that left field, I feel like there's a shortened with the wall there. All right, I'm officially in with Padres. And we will put this out on social.
I'm gonna go. I see some answers in the chat rolling through. PNC
and
Park,
if Eugene
Fenway
Krabs
Park.
is right, then
Oh
I might
gosh.
not get any right.
I wanted to go Chicago, actually. I know Hypothetical Man saying Cubs, but I don't know that actually. Now that I'm looking at, they all.
Uh-oh, we have 2 Fenway guesses.
Okay,
if that's right, then I'm screwed in this game.
I'm going with Wrigley as well.
Oh,
Hypothetical
no.
Man I'm nervous.
Oh, no.
Wait, can you tell us if we're close?
I'm going to tell you guys this. Nobody in the chat has gotten it right.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
all right.
Okay,
I
can
was
we
just
guess
hoping
again?
it
Let's
wasn't
guess again.
Fenway so that, like...
Let's guess again.
No, I'm sticking with Padres.
Wait, he said that we're...
He said nobody in the chat
Nobody
was
in
right.
the chat has got it
I said
right.
something in the chat, so I'm wrong.
Well, then you don't get another guess. Oh, and Tyler, you already know the answer.
I know the answer.
Boo.
All right, what is it?
No way, you're right, Jamie.
Busch
Oh.
Stadium. All right.
What?
Yeah.
I feel like we should
This
show
is
a
gonna be
picture of
tough.
it with it colored now. I'm going to Google it.
It is weird. Then the reason we thought of this was just like, it's just weird that every field of play and that stupid humidor out in Arizona, amongst others, is just so different than any other ballpark.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, this is going to be a really tough game, but we'll do one a day and torture ourselves.
Wow. And I don't like not knowing things or being wrong.
It's okay, Renee. We're
The
going
Virgo
to be wrong a lot. in
Can't
this.
handle the fact that I have no idea, and there's no preparing for this.
No,
Well, I technically
no.
could
It's
go
just a
home
gut
and study.
check.
We should do some flashcards, Jamie.
Yeah, you want to go home and study MLB ballpark layout of the
We're gonna
field?
do-
Well, if you wanted to go see some of these MLB ballparks, you can use the Game Time app to do so. And I would encourage you to use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. I just used Game Time this past weekend to go see a comedian in town. And Game Time is awesome because it's the easiest place, the fastest place, the best deals to find tickets with the best price guarantee to your favorite sporting events, concerts, theater, comedians, whatever it is you're looking for, they have the lowest price guarantee. Game Time is the place for last minute ticket deals. If you're planning, forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals right up until the event. The Game Time guarantee means you're always going to get the best price. And if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So you can get images of your seat, which I absolutely loved for the comedy show this past weekend. I knew exactly the view I was going to be getting. So snag tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, just create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
So I am now stuck on the fact that the field to me looks like a puma or a leopard or something at Busch Stadium.
You're gonna have to use the side
Yes.
foul territory is what I'm gonna use.
Yep.
As my
now that I'm looking at it,
guess.
I totally see it, but I just saw so many. It's like
Busch Stadium's
so many
kind of
other
one of the
things.
famous ones too. Like
Yeah, but like you don't look at it without anything else around it. Like,
yeah.
When you talk about ballparks, you're looking at like the whole thing. seating, lines.
No.
No.
You're just gonna have to guess.
Now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah, no.
All right, I will lose sleep over this. Eugene Krabs winner does not get a date with me. Sorry. But maybe a date with Jamie. I think he had agreed
I'm
he
slutty.
was going to.
I can be bought with beers and burgers.
Never ever hesitation.
What up, Will? You want to or who is it?
It was Eugene.
Eugene, you want to take me out for some burgers and beers? What do you say? A little MLB hot stove talk? What up? I don't think anybody wants that, Renee.
Nope, it got silent. The chat got I heard crickets. He just completely took away from all. Everybody was excited. They were joining in the conversation, and now it's like cricket. Mopar, this show, we wish it could be longer than an hour, but hit that like button because we have already run up on our hour. Just like that. Time flies when you're having fun and when you're talking about a date with Jamie.
Or Yamamoto.
Hit that like button. Make sure that you guys are subscribing, following, sharing. We will be posting some fun things on social, including this. Do not give the answer away when we post about guests that stayed. And you guys got the inside scoop because you joined us live, but don't spoil it for everybody else or spoil it. Who knows? So thank you guys for tuning into another edition of PHLY Phillies podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. Do we have the schedule?
Probably.
Oh, no. I've always yeah.
Let me see.
All right. I'll read it off while we're showing you guys on the screen as well.
I have 12 to 1 tomorrow.
Yes. It is only Tuesday. We've got plenty more shows. So Mopar, as you're wishing this show was longer than an hour, well, don't worry because we've got more shows coming your way each and every day. Oh, that rhymes nicely. And so tomorrow we're back at noon that we have an opportunity for you guys to be able to tune in live, bring the comments. We will continue doing our Guess That Ballpark game. Eventually one of us will get this right. And then
maybe
Thursday, 12:30. So we're back at the same time before Friday at 11 a.m. Tyler, don't worry about it. 11 a.m. on Friday. So basically 12, 12:30, 11, lock it in your brain, put it in your calendar. If you're like me, put a phone reminder, whatever you've got to do so you can remember to tune in. We will, of course, always be tweeting out the show link and everything so you can tune in with us live.
And tomorrow, I think we're going to dive into some bullpen targets because you can never have enough of those.
Coach, you going to scooter in for us right now? Coach is making here he comes. As we talk about bullpen arms, here comes our bullpen arm.
Can you please crash into something so it goes viral at least if you're going to do this? Please trip and fall.
Chords.
Please trip and fall.
Oh my God. Damn. That was actually kind of impressive. Even with he turned that quarter nicely. Well, that's how we do it here at PHLY Phillies podcast. And just like that, there is a schedule for this week. Again, 12 p.m. on Wednesday, 12:30 on Thursday, back at 11 a.m. on Friday. And if you don't have fun joining us in the conversation live, you can always have fun listening back across podcast platforms. You never know who's going to pop up. Coach may scooter in. Siri, a.k.a. Zulli, is going to always be weighing in. Of course, you know, Jamie Lynch and myself, Renee Watson, will always be here bringing you all the content.
And Rick, if you want to take me to the Cheesecake Factory, I'll go get some Thai lettuce wraps.
I was just at Cheesecake Factory.
I love Cheesecake Factory, so I'm not above chain restaurants.
That's so funny. No.
No.
Contrary to the list of worst places to take a date.
We should go over that one day.
We will, because
that made no sense to me.
I have a bone to pick.
You can't go bowling. You can't go to the movies. Like, what the hell is going on?
I don't know if it means that I'm a cheap date or what, but to me, the list is... it's only fast food spots. That's the only, but we're going to talk about it. Yeah. Like, just don't take me to McDonald's or something. But other than that, everything's pretty fair game.
They do have that Mambo sauce out now.
Mambo. All right, guys, that's it for Mambo. Renee, Jamie, Tyler, have a great one. Coach, who made it a guest appearance at the very end. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you back for more here on PHLY Phillies podcast as we dive deeper into date spots, bullpen, ballpark trivia, all types of things going on here on the show. See you guys next time.
We all silly like the mayor.